Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. So, the section which we will be studying today of the Vivekachudamani is the experience of Brahman in Samadhi. From these 3 verses actually describes this experience of Brahman in Samadhi, verse 408, 409 and 410. So we will take up these 3 verses for today's discussion. The 408th verse, Kim api satata bodham kevala ananda rupam nirupamam ativelam nitya muktam niriham niravadhi gaganabham nishkalang nirvikalpam hridhi kalayati vidwan brahma purna samadhau. So hridhi kalayati vidwan brahma purna samadhau. So this is the last phrase of this verse, which speaks of what it means. The wise man, the vidwan, the wise man realizes in his heart. So this heart plays a very important role in the Vedantic meditation. So that's the place where you have to meditate on the self. So in his heart, there is the hridhi, in the hridaya, the wise man realizes what he realizes through samadhi, samadhau, the infinite Brahman, Purna Brahma. So what is the nature of that Purna Brahma? Which is something of the nature of eternal knowledge. Kim api satata bodham. It is the nature of eternal knowledge, satata bodham, kevala ananda rupam. It is of the absolute bliss, kevala ananda rupam, nirupamam. So it has no exemplar. You cannot compare it with anything. That's what's the meaning of the word nirupamam. It has no exemplar. And then ati velam. So in velam means the shore. So ati velam, which transcends the limitations, all limitations. It can go beyond the shore of all limitations. So that's what is meant by ati velam. It transcends all limitations. And then nitya muktam. It is ever free. It's never in bondage. It's ever free. Niriham. It is without any desire and activity. That's what is meant by the word niriham. And which is like the limitless sky. Niravadhi gaganabham. The sky without any bounds, without any limits. So its nature is something like that. Niravadhi gaganabham. It's like the limitless sky. Nishkalam means it is indivisible. Kala means parts. In Sanskrit, the word kala means parts. Nishkalam means that which is having no parts. It is indivisible. So that's what's meant by the word Nishkalam. And Nirvikalpa means the absolute. The one who has no vikalpa. Vikalpa means it cannot be substituted by anything. So it has nothing which can substitute it. It is the absolute. So that is what we meant by the word Nirvikalpa. So now we will take up these words one by one to understand in a more detailed way that what actually it is speaking of when it is speaking of that ultimate realization of Brahman in the heart of a yogi. When he has attained the state of Samadhi, the realization which he has, that cannot be spoken of in the absolute term. So here you will find all the terms speaks of something in relation to this phenomenal existence. We are speaking of that. Satata Bodhan. In this world we find all knowledge is limited. But here it is being indicated that it is Satata Bodhan. It is eternal knowledge. Satata means ever. Bodhan means knowledge. That it is never, its knowledge is never interrupted. It's constantly, it is experiencing. As per this phenomenal existence is concerned, as the eternal subject, it is constantly experiencing the happenings of life. So that's why in the Mundaka Upanishad it has been mentioned that when to explain this Satata Bodhan, we can refer to the Mundaka Upanishad, where the knowledge of the Brahman has been spoken of as Sarva Vidya Pratishtha. It is the foundation of all knowledge. How to understand this is the foundation of all knowledge. Swami Vivekananda nicely in the West, when he was delivering his lecture, very nicely he said that even to know a chair, he pointed to a chair and said, even to know a chair, one has to know it through Brahman. So unless the conscious principle behind the mind is always there, there cannot be any knowledge. He is there as a foundation. It is because of the consciousness, the mind through the senses is perceiving the world, and that's how the knowledge is generated. Without the consciousness, there cannot be any knowledge. So it is the foundation of all knowledge. Because of it, everything else is experienced. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say that after one, you go on adding zero, the value goes on increasing. One after other, you put on zero, the value goes on increasing. Remove the one, it's all zero. So this conscious principle, without its association, this entire phenomenal existence, with its infinite expanse, with all its galaxies, stars, and all the celestial bodies, with all the beings, everything comes to that non-existence without the consciousness. That alone is being projected as the universe. So it is the one from whom everything has emanated. So the one from which everything, the cause has the knowledge of the effect, and it is the ultimate cause. So in that sense, that ultimate reality, the Brahman, is Satata Bodhan. It is never bereft of consciousness. It is always aware of all the things which are happening. So that's why we are saying this ultimate reality, in the absolute sense we cannot speak of it. But when we are trying to relate it to the phenomenal existence, from that standpoint, it is Satata Bodhan. It is Kevala Ananda Rupam. Again, in this world we have never experienced Ananda, the bliss, which is uninterrupted. That absolute bliss we never experience. That there can be bliss for just a moment, and then again it is interrupted. It's gone. That whenever our desires are fulfilled, just for a moment we get that happiness, and then again it reaches a state of evaporation. It's not there. So here we are finding that it is being indicated that the ultimate reality is Kevala Ananda Rupam. When you get established in that, for the first time you experience that uninterrupted bliss, which in our scriptures they say is Taila Dharavat, is just like the pouring of oil from one vessel to another. Because of the viscosity, you will find there is no interruption in the flow. So that's the example which the scriptures gives, that this bliss is just like the flow of oil from one vessel to the other. There is no interruption. So that's the Ananda Rupa which has been spoken of in the scriptures. With that we give that example again and again, that the self is always blissful. But why don't we experience it? Because as long as we have the mind, and the mind has thousands of desires, these desires, the thought waves, that filters out the Ananda Swarupata, which is the core of our existence. Swami Vivekananda's example is that the mind is just like a lake and our real nature is like the bottom of the lake, which is Satchid Ananda Swarupa. As long as there are waves in the mind, in the form of desires, in the form of thoughts, in the forms of feelings and emotions, as long as these waves are there, the Ananda Swarupata gets obscured. In this life, whenever we enjoy bliss, even for a moment, the world doesn't have the capacity to give us happiness, even a bit of happiness. That, in the words of Shankaracharya, that Sukham Gandha Matram na Vindyate. There is not even a little fragrance of happiness in this world. That whatever happiness we experience is of the self. That when I am desiring something, my mind is full of waves, and those waves obscure the happiness. But the moment my desire is fulfilled, then for the time being, the mind is placid. The desire has been fulfilled. So all the waves in the form of desire, they have now quieted, they have become quiet. They have entered a state of equanimity, tranquility. And then this filtering factor of the bliss has been obliterated. And now I find that the bliss percolates. Just for the time being. Again a new desire comes and the bliss is gone. So that bliss is something which is always there. It is our mind which obscures it. So when we go to that spiritual realization, in Samadhi, where all the desires has been obliterated, then that bliss becomes something uninterrupted. Because in the mind there is no thought waves to restrict the flow of the bliss coming from our real nature. So that's what is meant by Kevala Ananda Rupam. And then Nirupamam. It has no exemplar. Because in Vedanta, ultimate reality is non-dual. It alone exists. Everything else is a projection, is superimposition on that absolute reality. So all these varied things of name and form which we see in the universe, all these varied experiences which we have, they are nothing but the superimposition on the self. It says be superimposed on the self. The self is the thing which is the only reality, one without the second. So if there is none other than the self, there is no question of comparison. So that's why there is no exemplar. It is Nirupamam. Ati Velam. It transcends all limitations. It is a substratum of the entire phenomenal existence. So it is just like the water which is superimposed on the mirage. So when I am seeing that water in the mirage, it's not there. The mirage is something which is superimposed on the desert. That huge reservoir I see, that doesn't have the capacity to drench even a single sand particle. So that's what is meant by it transcends all limitations. Because as it is a mere projection, in no way it can be limited by the things which are being projected. Just as we say, when we see a snake on a rope, that snake doesn't have the capacity to inflict poison, to inflict venom on the rope. It doesn't have the capacity because it is a mere projection. So that's what is being meant by Ati Velam. It transcends all the limitations. That it can in no way affected by the phenomenal existence which is a mere superimposition on the self, of the self. And then it is Nitya Mukta that is being mentioned. It is ever free, being Niriham, beyond all desire. Why it is Nitya Mukta? Because it is Niriha. Anything that all our sense of bondage comes from the desire. The moment there is a desire arises, then immediately what happens? The moment desire arises, I feel that I am limited by that desire. Unless I have that desire, my freedom is restricted. The want speaks of the restriction. It doesn't allow me to just enjoy the bliss of freedom. So, when anything is beyond any desires, that's the state which speaks of freedom. So, as the self is niriham, beyond desires, and from the desires only activities emanate. So, if there is no desire, there is no activity, and that speaks of the state of nitya mukta, ever free being niriham, and niravadhi gaganabham. So, it is just like the limitless sky. It speaks of the non-locality. As we find that Swami Vivekananda gives that example, that what is the difference between a jiva, ordinary bound soul, and one who is spiritually illumined. He says a jiva, an ordinary bound soul, is just like a circle which has a center but whose circumference is nowhere. It has a center but whose circumference is nowhere. What he means? That as long as we are limited by the body-mind complex, even if I stop interaction with the world, if I just shut down all my sense organs, I will find that though I am not seeing anything, though I am not hearing anything, though I am not touching anything, though I am smelling anything, tasting anything, still I cannot get rid of this idea that I am located somewhere, I am sitting somewhere, or I am standing somewhere. So there is a center, but at the same time, that there is no circumference. You are a circle which has a center but no circumference. Why no circumference? Because with my mind, through my imagination, I can travel anywhere. If someone says that this is the last star till now, last galaxy till now, discovered by the so-called the physicians, the astrophysicians. With our mind, with our imagination, I can even go beyond that. Nothing can restrict the bounds of my mind. I can go anywhere. So as per the that the limitation is concerned, as per the expanse of my awareness is concerned, there is no limit. So that's why I have a circle which has no circumference. But I can never jump out of the locality that I am sitting here. I cannot jump out of it. Just the way I cannot get rid of my shadow, I can never get rid of that locality. But when we go to that realization in Samadhi, when I am, that's why the word Brahman has been originated from that experience. What happens? When in Samadhi, it's not that I have become totally obliterated of awareness. Awareness is still there. The idea of amness is still there. That I am, it's still there. But now I cannot localize it. That where it is, it has gone something beyond space-time causation. So that's what speaks of this Niravadhi Gaganabham, just like the sky which has no bounds. It is all pervasive. Its expanse is everywhere. It is something which pervades everything, the Akasha, the Gagana. So similarly the self, the real self, at present I have an idea, it is localized. When I go to that realization, that sense of locality falls off. It becomes something non-local. That's what the meaning of the word Brahma is. Brahma came from Brih Dhatu, which means Brihat. And that's what is indicated by the word Niravadhi Gaganabham. And then Nishkalang, indivisible. So as consciousness, as has been spoken of by Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya, it's as like a homogeneous mass of consciousness. How can you make part of something which is homogeneous? This homogeneous. There cannot be any part of something which is homogeneous. So it's being a homogeneous mass of consciousness. It is as it is. So that it has gone beyond all kala, idea of parts. It is nishkala. The better way of understanding nishkalam is something like transmission. So when something is transmitted, if I have a TV, I'm just sitting in front of the TV, what has been transmitted, that gets localized in the screen. But is the transmission itself in any way localized? No, it's anywhere. If my TV's picture tube breaks and I have to reject the TV, I go and buy a new TV and I just turn on the same channel, the same picture again comes. So it is something which is non-local. The thing which is non-local. Can I have any part of it? No, it cannot be, there cannot be any part of it. So it is something like a transmission. So that's why it has been called as nishkala, which has no parts. And nirvikalpam, that's absolute, that is bereft of any kind of wrong idea, which arises because of superimposition. So just to give an example, that when I am seeing a snake in a rope in the twilight hours, this is a common example in Vedanta. When I am seeing a snake in a rope, has the rope really become snake? No. Before the illusion, before the delusion has set in, it was rope. When I am delusioned, it is still rope. When the delusion will break, it will still continue to be rope. So as per its real nature is concerned, there is no as such, it has no such substitute. It is as it is. It cannot really get transformed into something else. All the idea of transformation is something which is the product of delusion. So there actually has no change has happened. So that's what is meant by nirvikalpa. There is no vikalpa. There's nothing has changed of it. It is as it is. Even because of delusion, if I am seeing it something else, but actually it has not changed. It is as it is. So any kind of wrong idea which arises because of superimposition, it is something which is beyond that, the self. So after saying that in the 409th verse, now this last phrase, Hridhi kalayati vidwan brahma purna samadhav, this will be repeated in all these three verses, 408, 409, 410. It will just that the wise man realizes in his heart through samadhi the infinite Brahman. This will be repeated in all the three verses, but after saying this Brahman that will be described in various ways, and all these descriptions are just tatastha lakshana. This is the term which we use again and again, tatastha. What it means, these terms are very, very significant in Vedanta. The thing which I cannot know by itself, I can somehow have an idea of it, infer it, with the help of something as a referral, as something reference. What the word tatastha means actually? Tata means the shore. So suppose there is a tall tree on the shore of a river, just on the bank of a river. From a distance, I cannot see the river. And someone asks me, where is the river? And I show him the tree. Do you see the tree? The tall tree? Yes. It is just on the bank of that river this tree is. This river is just on the, just flowing by the side of the tree. Just by the tree the river is flowing. It is just on the tata, on the shore of the river. So that's the idea of tatastha lakshana. So the tree becomes the reference with the help of which I can have an idea of the river which is flowing by. Similarly, the self by itself can never be known. But with the help of all the referral points which we take from this phenomenal existence, with that we can infer about the existence of the self, and all those inferences all those Tatastha Lakshanas has been spoken of in the first three phrases of all the three verses, 408, 409, 410. And the fourth phrase, the last phrase, speaks of the realization of Brahman in Samadhi, that Samadhi in which you realize the Brahman, what that Brahman is like. That's been spoken of in the first three phrases of all the three verses. So now here, what it is saying? The last phrase, of course, is the same. Hridhi kalayati vidwan brahma purna samadho. But what are the first three verses? Prakriti vikriti shunyam, the 409th verse. Prakriti vikriti shunyam bhavana atita bhavam samarasam asamanam mana sambandha duram nigama vachana siddha nityam asmat prasiddham hridhi kalayati vidwan brahma purna samadho. So the wise man realizes in his heart through samadhi the infinite Brahman. Hridhi kalayati vidwan brahma purna samadho. What is it like? Which is devoid of the ideas of cause and effect. Just see, in this phenomenal existence, whatever I see, I know there is a cause behind it. I am sitting in front of the table. It is made. What is its cause? The wood. What is the cause of the wood? A tree. What is the cause of the tree? The water, the sunlight. So everything has a cause and effect relation. So here, that ultimate realization, when you go to that, when you're experiencing Brahman, and with reference to this cause and effect which I see in this universe, I realize that it is something beyond that. The cause and effect doesn't apply to that. So it is devoid of the ideas of cause and effect. So that is what is meant by Prakriti Vikriti Shunyam. Bhavana Atita Bhavam. So Bhavana Atita Bhavam. What it means? That it is actually the subject beyond all objects. Bhavana Atita Bhavam. Bhavana. That whenever I see an object, it is objectified in the form of a thought. So there is one witness who is seeing certain thing. The thing which is seen is the object, and the one who is seeing, the witness, is the subject. So all these thing which is seen is the bhavana. They have been objectified. But the self cannot be objectified, it being the eternal subject. So that's why it's called bhavana atita bhavam. That in Drigdrishya Viveka, it starts with that idea that when I am seeing with my eyes this external world, the eyes, for the time being, is as if the subject, and all the things which I am seeing is the object. So how to understand that I is the subject? The subject cannot see itself, but it can see the other things. Can the eye see the eye itself? No. But it can see the things other than the eye. So all the things which are witnessed is the object. But the thing which is witnessing, it cannot witness itself. Then how do I become aware of my eye? Because all the things which I see with my eye is again processed with my mind. It is the mind that processes all the things which I am seeing. Because of the mind, now mind becomes the subject. With reference to the mind, the eye becomes the object. So just see how we are transcending the bhavana, these objects, going beyond. First, the eye itself was a bhava, which was bhavana atita, in the form of objects. Then the eye becomes the subject. The mind, which is processing what I am seeing through the eyes, that becomes the object. The mind is the subject. But again, what I am thinking, what I am seeing, I know what I am seeing. There is someone witnessing my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions. I know my thoughts, I know my feelings, I know my perceptions, I know my emotions. So there is someone who is witnessing that. So, with reference to that who is witnessing the thoughts, that becomes the subject. The mind, with all its thoughts, becomes the object. Now the question comes, the one who is the witnessing, who is he? As we saw, the eye itself cannot see the eye. Because of the mind, I am aware of the eye. Similarly, the mind itself can never perceive the mind. Someone is witnessing the mind. Because of that, I am aware of the mind. And now I ask, who is witnessing the mind? I cannot answer. Why? Because the ultimate subject can never be known. Just with this wonderful reasoning you find. Just the way the eye itself cannot know the eye. The mind itself cannot know the mind. Similarly, the ultimate subject, beyond which there is no subject. So how can it be known? Because the subject cannot know itself. But I am aware of the subject because it is witnessing certain object. Some object is being witnessed from that. That's the tatastha. That ultimate, that in this world we will find. Can I see light? I cannot see light. When the light falls on an object and it is illumined, then I am aware of the existence of light. Can I see gravitation? No. When the gravitation is is affecting an object and the object is falling, the object is under the influence of the gravitation. From that, seeing the falling object, I can know that there is gravitation. Similarly, here also, as the mind is being illuminated, I know what's going on in the mind. From that, I can infer that there must be something beyond the mind which cannot be known. But as the mind is known, that proves that something is there as the eternal subject behind the mind. And that's the idea of bhavana atita bhavam. It is the eternal subject which cannot be objectified. So everything else is object. Only the self is the ultimate subject. Samarasam. As in the previous sloka, we got the idea of nishkalam, something without part. So here the reason has been spoken of that. Why that self is without parts? Because it is samarasam, homogeneous. It is just that consciousness which cannot be differentiated into various parts. So it is samarasam. And asamanam. Asamanam means matchless. Again, even in the previous verse, it was mentioned that it is nirupamam. It has no exemplar. And here it is being indicated the same thing. Asamanam, matchless. Because it is a non-dual entity. There is nothing exists apart from that. With what I will compare that? So that's why it is asamanam, matchless. Mana sambandha duram. So Brahman cannot be calibrated. In this world, everything can be measured. Mana means measurement. So Brahman cannot be calibrated. It is beyond logic. To try to realize Brahman through logic is just like trying to taste the mango through discussion. To understand that, realize the taste of mango through discussion. So it is something which has to be realized, but it cannot be explained. I cannot explain it. I cannot just resort to logic to understand it. Unless and until someone else who have realized the ultimate reality, they too can somehow, they won't be communicating, but they somehow can relate to each other. But other than that, as it is something beyond our beyond our mind and speech, it cannot be calibrated. Mana, and anything which doesn't have attributes, that cannot be measured. If the attributes, so the attributes, we can define a thing. If we just get rid of the attributes, just like a flower, what are its attributes? Its color, the redness, is one of the attributes. Its shape is another attribute. Its fragrance is another attribute. If I touch it, it has a very soft texture. That again is another attribute. Now we leave out all these attributes. Its color, its shape, its fragrance, I leave out. Can I in any way define that flower, what it is? Without the attributes, the thing as it is can never be defined. Whenever in this world, whatever I am defining, you will find it is all attributes. Even as a human being, some is short, some is tall, some is fair complexion, dark complexion, some is knowledgeable, some is ignorant. All these are attributes. If you remove all the attributes, what remains? Just existence. That I cannot deny. There is some existence on which my mind is projecting all those attributes and then defining it as such and such. But the thing on which everything, all these attributes has been superimposed, the thing itself can never be known. Only thing I can say, it exists, asti, it is there. There isness. If I remove all the attributes which defines me, the person, then what is that? Then what remains is the amness. I am. Nothing I can say more than that if I remove all the attributes. This amness is something which I can say about myself, and about the external world I can say isness. It is, it exists, but what it is I cannot say. So this ultimate reality which speaks of existence, it is not that it is something shunya. There is something which by itself can never be known. It is beyond mind and senses. Whenever the mind tries to grasp it, immediately it taints it. It taints it with its color. Just like trying to see the world wearing the green glass. You see everything green. If I try to see the world with a yellow glass, everything appears to be yellow. So we are tainting our perception with the glass which we are wearing. Since all the senses are like the tainted glass. When the self is what is being projected through this tainted glass, the self takes the color of the taint, but the self by itself as such is beyond all those taint. What it is, I can never know. It is as it is. That's why it can never be measured in any way, because it's beyond all the attributes. It cannot be calibrated. That's what is being indicated by the term Mana Sambandha Duram. Then how to know it? Nigama Vachana Siddham. So it can be proved by the experience, only the experience of the wise as has been recorded in the scripture. So scripture doesn't speak of the truth. What the scripture does, it is just an indicator. Just as we find in the life of Buddha, when he was asked, Sir, a person came and asked him, Sir, whether God is, he kept quiet, he never replied. So the one who asked him, he thought most probably, Buddha doesn't believe in the existence of God. So now, as he was silent, he thought that. So now the next question, then God is not, isn't it? Then also Buddha kept quiet, he never replied. And then we find his disciple, this man was frustrated, he left. And his disciple Ananda, he asked, why don't you give a definite answer? And what Buddha said is something very interesting. What he said? That I don't speak of the principle. I speak of the way. That you follow certain way, and that will take you to the experience. That experience cannot, what you experience, that cannot be spoken of. I can just speak of the way. And then what he says is very interesting. I am just pointing, whatever my discourse is just like a pointer. With my index finger, I am pointing to the moon to show the world the moon. But they take the index finger to be the moon. I am using the finger to point to the moon, but they take the index finger to be the moon. So that's what the scripture is doing. With the scripture, I can never know the reality, but it gives me the way to realize that reality. And it can be experienced. So with the help of the scriptures, at last I can transcend the scriptures. That's why the Veda is bold enough. Swamiji says that in the world no other scriptures say that the ultimate reality is beyond the scriptures. The scriptures is the ultimate, speaks of the ultimate truth. That's what most of the scriptures say. But the Vedas are bold enough to say no, the ultimate truth transcends the scripture. It is just a pointer that by following which we can go to that realization, and that realization cannot be spoken of. It is something which can be experienced, but it cannot be described. It is experienceable, but not describable. Just in the words of Ramakrishna, it is just like ghee, the clarified butter. Kamon ghee, na jamon ghee. I know that it has a taste, but can I describe the taste of that clarified butter? No. So Sri Ramakrishna is just trying to explain that yes, there are some experiences which you experience but you cannot describe. Something else also, not only like clarified butter. Even if someone asks a mother, do you feel love for the child? Yes. For my own son, I feel a love, immense love for him. What is that love? Can you calibrate it? How much? No, it cannot be calibrated. Mana sambandha rohidam. Then how to experience that love? You become the mother. If you become the mother, you yourself will experience, it cannot be described. So that's what these two, so mana sambandha duram and nigama vachama siddham means. The one who has experienced, he can speak in affirmation. Yes, it is something which can be experienced. And the scriptures is the pointer that can help you to go to that realization. But what you realize, that cannot be described. So it is proved by the experience of the wise as recorded in the scripture. So it is like the one who has tasted the mango. Unless I taste the mango, I can never know the taste of mango. However, some may try to describe it to me. May go on describing the taste of mango for years. Unless I have tasted it, can I know it? No. But the moment I taste it, then all the vikalpas, all the ideas, wrong ideas which I had about the taste of mango, that falls off in a flash. And the knowledge comes in just in a flash. That's why Sri Ramakrishna used to say that you may be under the ignorance for births together, for lives together. When Girish came and told Sri Ramakrishna that I have committed so much of sin, what's the way out for me? And Sri Ramakrishna speaks, then he replies wonderfully. What he says? Suppose a room is dark for thousands of years, and then someone enters the room with a matchstick, he just strikes the match. Will that room take another 1,000 years to get lighted gradually as it was dark for 1,000 years? No, it gets lighted immediately. So the moment the knowledge dawns in, immediately the ignorance vanishes. So knowledge comes in a flash. So that's being indicated by this word is nigama vachana. The moment through that nigama, through the Vedas, you go to that realization in a flash. All your ignorance vanishes and it takes you to that realization. And then what's being spoken of? Nityam asmat prasiddham. That though it cannot be, as we were saying again and again, it's all tatastha lakshana. The ultimate self. I can never know it. But with the referral points in this phenomenal existence, I can infer about its existence. So nityam asmat prasiddham, that even that when we have not experienced Brahman intuitively through samadhi, it is ever known to all of us as the basis of our self-awareness. It is a reflection of Brahman through the body-mind complex in the form of ego, the who is constantly saying, I am, I am. It is incessant. No one can deny it. If someone says there is no self, very nicely it has been said, the denier of the self is the self. The one who is saying there is no self, who is saying? The one who is saying there is no self is the self. So you can never deny the self. You can never think of your death, annihilation. It's a very interesting thing. It happened in the life of Ramana Maharshi. As a small child, one day, when no one was there at home, he was alone. And suddenly, he started thinking, if I die, no one is here. And that idea scared him. Oh, if I die, if I die. And he was imagining his death. And suddenly the thought came, who is visualizing my death? It is me. That no one can think of his own death. It is a very interesting thing. Can you think of your death? No. At the most, what you will be thinking? That your body is lying, the relatives are all surrounding it, they are mourning. But who is witnessing all this thing? You only. It is you who are, can you really think of your death? Is impossible. So that is the one who is eternally witnessing. As this as the asmat, this I am, in the form of ego which is generating from within. So that gives the indication of that ultimate self. It is this I am, as a substratum behind it is the real self. It is just the self which is being reflecting through the body-mind complex to create this awareness of asmat, this I am. In the scriptures, that's why they say, in the sky there is only one sun, in the ocean there are innumerable waves, and each wave is reflecting the sun. This reflection of sun, innumerable reflection of sun, is that asmat, I am. The one sun is appearing as many. It is actually one, but it is appearing as many. And because of these reflections, I can know that there is a self. Without the reflection, I cannot know. We find in the gospel, there is a nice conversation of Sri Ramakrishna with Girish Ghosh. One day Sri Ramakrishna asked, suppose there are 10 pots full of water, 10 jars full of water. And there is a sun in the sky. And the sun is being reflected in all the 10 pots. So he asks Girish, how many reflections are there? He says there are 10 reflections. And of course, the sun is there and there are 10 reflections of it. And then Sri Ramakrishna says that one pot is broken. 9 pots are there. Then how many reflections? 9 reflections, one sun. Sri Ramakrishna continues that way, and at last he goes to that one pot. There is one pot, and then how many reflections? Girish says 1 reflection and 1 sun. And then Sri Ramakrishna says that last pot, that is also broken. Then what is the experience? He says no reflection but 1 sun. Immediately Sri Ramakrishna retorts by saying you cannot say that. Unless there is reflection, you can be never aware of the sun. As long as the reflection is there, you are aware of the sun. Without the reflection, you can never be aware of the sun. So this reflection is that asmat. That's, as long as it is there, I am aware of that ultimate reality. So as long as I have not went to the samadhi, in this phenomenal existence, even beyond going to that state of samadhi, I can infer about the self by seeing its reflection as the idea of I am, this asmat, this idea of this I am, which is constantly emanating from the locality of this body-mind complex. So that's what is being spoken of as Nityam Asmat Prasiddham. And the last verse in this section, where this experience of the Brahman in the Samadhi in one's heart has been spoken of. So here also the last phrase is the same thing. Hridhi kalayati vidwan brahma purna samadhau. But what that Brahman is? Ajaram amaram asta abhava vastu swarupam stimita salila rashi prakhyam akhya vihinam shamita guna vikaram shashvatam shantam ekam. And then of course the Hridhi Kalayati Vidwan Brahma Purna Samadhav. So that Brahman is Ajaram Amaram. Ajara means that which is never decaying. Amaram means which is never annihilated. So, by these two terms, the Shara Vikara, the 6 changes which we see in any phenomenal existence is denied. Again, the Tatastha Lakshana. With reference to this world, we are trying to understand, we are trying to infer Brahman. So what are the Shara Vikara, which we have spoken of? That any entity in this world goes through this 6 transformation. What are they? Jayate. It was non-existent. It comes to existence at a certain point of time. That is Jayate. It's born. Asti. It will continue to exist for some time. And as long as it is existing, what happens? First, Vardhate. We see growth. In the inception, there is a growth. Then, after some time, viparinamate. Transformation, the growth stops, it starts getting transformed. And then, apakshiyate. And then it has reached the highest point, it was growing like a curve. It has reached the apex. And then, apakshiyate, it starts decaying. And then a time comes when it is no more there. Nasti. So for all the things in this world, they are not amara. They were born at a certain point of time, they are going to die at a certain point of time. And as long as they are existing, they are not ajara also. Because there is jara, is constantly going through this decay. From the word jara, this is an antonym of jara is ajaram. Jara speaks of decay. The ultimate reality is ajaram. There is no decay, there is no death. And astu abhava, asta abhavastu swarupam. Asta abhava vastu swarupam. These words, very poetical, technical at the same time, very poetical. So in Vivekachudamani we find the poet within Shankaracharya has manifested so nicely the way the verse he is, rhyming them. Wonderful, the words which are choosing. This asta abhava vastu swarupam. Asta means to set, the sun sets. That is called astamita. Surya astamita. Asta means to not exist. Abhava vastu swarupam. So it's abhava vastu. What it speaks of? It is a negation of all negations. So, very nicely he is using the logic in a poetic way. Everything gets negated, but not Brahman. That's what actually it means. It's a negation of all negation. Everything gets negated, but not Brahman. When the snake is negated, when I am seeing a snake in the rope, when the snake is negated, the rope still remains. The rope alone remains, which I cannot negate. The rope was there. During the delusion it is there. After the delusion, when the delusion falls off, then also it is there. The existence of the rope can never be negated. The snake is negated. So all the things in the world can be negated. But the ultimate source from which all the superimpositions has happened, that can be negated. But the ultimate source, that can that be negated? No. That cannot be negated. That is as it is. So that's what is being meant by abhava vastu. Everything today or tomorrow is bound to go to the state of abhava. It won't be there. With the dawn of knowledge, it won't be there. But with the dawn of ultimate knowledge, when the delusion falls off, will the same self be annihilated? No, the self is. It can never be negated. So that's why there, all the negations which we see in this world has as if it has vanished from there. It has gone asta. It is no more there. So that's what we meant by word asta abhava vastu swarupam. So it can never be negated. Everything can be negated, but the self can never be negated. Stimita shalila rashi prakhyam. It is like the profound, waveless ocean. The waves we see only in the fringes of existence. All the projections we see is just the surface of the existence. The core of the existence is the self, which is beyond any sort of transformation. So that's why we give that example sometime, that what's our sadhana is like, what's our spiritual practice is like, to cross the shores of these waves of the phenomenal existence and to go into the deep waters of the calm ocean, which speaks of that self, the tranquil self. We see that a small, this boatman, fisherman, the poor fishermen with a small boat sometimes go for fishing in the sea. It's not easy, because on the shore of the sea there are huge waves, and this the fisherman has to break this barrier of the waves. It tries hard. Once it tries, it is thrown back by the wave. Again it tries, it is thrown back. It goes on trying, and ultimately when it breaks the wave barrier, at last it goes into the deep water of the ocean where it is calm. And then he enjoys his fishing there in the calm, tranquil waters of the ocean. So this has been spoken of as the Stimita Shalila Rashi Prakhyam. All the waves are in the fringes of the phenomenal existence. Deep within the core of its existence, there is no, as such, disturbance. There is no, as such, superimpositions. It is as it is. It is that calm, tranquil existence which has been spoken of as Stimita Sarira Rashi Prakhyam. And then Akhya Vihinam. It is nameless. As it is beyond, as we were saying, that we cannot define anything apart from the attributes. That when I am seeing a flower, what the flower is, I say it is red, it has a shape, it has particular fragrance, it has a very soft touch. All these are attributes. Can I define the flower as it is? No. With all these attributes I name the flower, with the help of the attributes. If you take off the attributes, I can at the most say it is just mere existence, which I cannot define. So the ultimate reality on which all the attributes are superimposed, to get this world of name and form, when these attributes are removed, what remains is that pure existence. And as it is beyond all the attributes, it cannot be named. So that's why it is Akhya Vihinam. And then Shamita Guna Vikaram, that it is beyond the three gunas. In this world, as we found, a very nice allegory of Sri Ramakrishna, parable of Sri Ramakrishna, of the three dacoits. The three gunas. What are the three gunas? Satya, Raja, Tama. Tama, which binds us, destroys us. It destroys us. And what's Raja? That which binds us. And Sattva, it takes us towards the realization. But when you reach the state of realization, then even you have transcended Sattva. In the words of Buddha, no one carries the raft on his shoulder after crossing the river. So the raft is the Sattva, which helps you to cross the river. But after you have crossed the river, are you going to carry the raft on your shoulder? No, its work has been done. The Sri Ramakrishna's story is wonderful. What is to say? There were three dacoits. One day, a passerby was passing through the deep forest, and these three dacoits, they seized him. They took him as a hostage, and then they just robbed him, took away all his wealth. And then one of the dacoits said, "Let us kill him." The second the dacoit said, "Why to kill him? Our purpose was to get the wealth, and he shouldn't be going back to complain against us. So there will be an inquiry. So he shouldn't complain. So let us do one thing. Why to just simply kill him? Let us tie him to a stump. There was a stump, and they were told, and all the three agreed. He was tied to that stump, and they left. And then the third dacoit came back, and he was compassionate. He said, "Oh, most probably you are in extreme pain. Let me open the bonds." So he was unchained. His chain was removed. And then this third dacoit told, "Now you can go back to your village. You can go back, but you will lost your way. This is a very deep forest. Come, let me show you the way." And he shows him the way. And when the forest is over and at a distance the village is visible, the third dacoit points that that's your village. Now you can go to your village. Now out of gratitude, this passerby asks, "Why not you come with me and be my guest for tonight?" And then this third dacoit says, "No, I cannot go there. The police will catch me." And after saying that, Sri Ramakrishna says, the dacoit who showed him the way is the sattva. And the one who told bind him is the rajas. This all our rajasic temperaments binds us to the world through ambitions and everything. And the tamas, through our laziness, we destroy our life. Through ignorance, we destroy our life. So these are the three dacoits. But sattva takes us to the fringe of the forest and shows us the way, our destination. But it itself also cannot go there. So that's why the ultimate realization has been spoken of as beyond the three gunas. Three guna rahitam, guna vikara, shamita guna vikara. Shamita means where all the guna vikara has stopped. It is no more working in that state. The three gunas has no influence over that ultimate state. Shamita guna vikaram. And then it is saying at the last three things, shashvatam, shantam, ekam. Shashvatam. Shashvatam means eternal. So as it is ajaram and amaram, the thing which is not decaying, the thing which has no death, is bound to be shashvata. It was, it is, it will be. And as it was like a stimita shalila rashi has been spoken of, that like the calm ocean, so naturally it has to be shantam, tranquil. And as it is non-dual, as nothing exists apart from that, it is ekam. So that's how we find with the tatastha lakshana, we can in no way describe Brahman as it is, but only by tatastha lakshana. By referring it to this phenomenal existence, we can infer about the existence of the self, which has to be realized by a spiritual practitioner in his life. These all indicators are there to motivate him, because we find all these indicators are speaking of the limitations of this so-called phenomenal existence, and we can go beyond that. That's what they're speaking of. So we all want to go beyond the limitations. And when the scripture says, yes, there is an existence which is beyond all the limitations of this phenomenal existence, that's how the scripture is creating a motivation within us, so that we also go to that experience. And that experience as such cannot be described. As Sri Ramakrishna says, everything has been defiled. Eto hoye gache. Only Brahman cannot be defiled. Means all the things in the world, I can describe it. I can experience it and describe it. But that ultimate reality is beyond such description and beyond any objectified experience. It cannot be objectified. So that's why it is not in any way defiled. So that's what these three verses speak of. Their aim is to motivate us to go to that realization. And that alone speaks of real religion. So religion is not believing, it is being and becoming, in the words of Swami Vivekachudamani. So to become, to be just to be and to become. So just be one with the self. By realizing it, that the one who knows Brahman becomes Brahman. So that's what has been spoken of here. So with this, we stop our discussion. The next section we will take up again in the next class. With this, we conclude our class today. Thank you all. Namaskars.